Hello once again, fellow flight simmers and cockpit builders. Welcome to another episode of my Back to Basics series. Although, judging by the number of things you see on the screen right now, it probably doesn't look very basic, right? But there's a good point, because due to all the different things that we can connect to our Arduinos, while using HIXY, it's kind of a good idea, I thought, if not downright important, at the very least helpful to know what you can connect on each pin, because there is some things that you can connect on certain pins only and you cannot connect them somewhere else. So today I'm going to go ahead and go through what kind of things you can connect on every single pin of the Arduino while we're building our home cockpits using HIXY. Alright, but before we go any further, I would like to put out my shiny new disclaimer that any information that I give you on these videos is my understanding of the material presented on the HIXY website. I always recommend that you go to the website yourselves and read through everything, and hopefully between the videos and what you read on the website, it'll finally click and make sense to you and make your building a lot more enjoyable. So as of the day of this recording, I was on firmware version 1.0.72, and the website and configurator pages were as shown the way they were on March 18th, 2021. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. So there's going to be a lot of information, but you won't need to memorize all of it, because obviously, you can find it while you are configuring your setup. So, but, because we can connect, like for example, toggle switches, like this or like these right here. This is just a basic 2 position. This is a 3. You can connect push buttons, or you can connect LEDs, potentiometers, rotary switches with multiple number of positions, stepper motors. These are steppers, and then the VID 6606 stepper driver. You can do pulse width modulated devices with this chip right here. You can do the DM13A, for LED lights. This is a shift register. I think it's a HC74595 or something. LCD screens, 7-segment displays, servos, and this is some other type of potentiometers, sliding potentiometers. So, we got, and then there's some other stuff that I don't even own, that I don't have here. But there's a wide variety of things that we can connect to our Arduinos. So I'm going to walk you guys through what pins we can use for connecting certain things and what pins are not available to connect for anything at all. So let's go to the website and let's get started right away. So hopefully it doesn't turn out to be a very long video. First thing we got to do is, of course, go to the configurator page, because that's where our whole pin layout is going to be. And as you'll notice, and as you've seen on your Arduinos, there are a total of 69 pins on the Arduino. But you'll notice here with HIXY that 0 and 1 are not available at all. And then if you come down here to 21, you'll also notice that 22 through 29 are not available, because those are the ones that are used for the address bus and the data lines for outputs. So right off the bat, just keep in mind that 0, 1, and 22 through 29 are not available to use. And if you're using USB. If you're using Ethernet, it looks like you do have 0 and 1, but you don't have 10. 10 is missing right here, and then you're also missing 21 through 29, which are once again the address bus and the data lines. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to keep remembering over and over as we go through this, okay? So first we're going to do digital inputs. So digital inputs can be used for anything that's an on and off. So it can be used for multi-position rotary switch, for any type of switches like this that have a contact, whether it's a toggle switch like this, or whether it's a push button or a toggle like this. So that's what inputs can be used for. Okay, so through all these examples, I'm gonna concentrate on USB, because that's what I use. but if I remember, I'll try to go back and mention Ethernet. But just remember, on Ethernet, 0 and 1 are available, but number 10 is not available. Alright, so let's go ahead and just concentrate on USB for now. Because I'm even gonna confuse myself if I try to keep going back and forth between the two, probably. Alright, so for an input, we can pretty much select any pin that is available on the list, even the analog ones, which are number 54 through 69. The only one we cannot select is number 13. So if you go, like let's say we try to assign a push button here and we go to number 13, you'll see that it won't let you. But if you just try to select any other pin, it will allow you to select it. So that's for inputs and input multiplexers. So anywhere you can select an input, you can select an input multiplexer as well, as you can see. But once again, if we go to number 13, you see that the input multiplexer option is grayed out because you cannot select it. And I believe the reason for that is because if we look at the Arduino, there's an LED that is linked to pin number 13, and as we might know already, an LED is a diode, so it only allows current to flow in one direction. So if you're trying to put an input on that pin and it has to go backwards through the LED, it cannot flow. So that's why you cannot assign an input on that one. At least that's the way I see it. Alright, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about analog inputs. So analog inputs are used like for potentiometers, like this one right here, or sliding potentiometers that you got like right here. And you can also use other things like photoresistive sensors and magnetoresistive sensors. So those are right there. You can assign those on any pin on the A0 through A15. Okay, so let's say for example you wanted to assign, as many of you guys probably already know, when you buy a rudder pedal or yokes, or especially the cheaper ones, they come with potentiometers. So if you wanted to use you know, something like that, you would need, you see how you cannot select it right there because that's not an analog input, so you have to go through A0 through A15. So if you wanted to assign that there, you can. Let's say you wanted to do the pitch, you also would need to select one of those, because if you try something out here, it won't let you, so you would need to go down here. And of course the same thing for the roll, so you would need to select it right there. So anything that has a variable position, you know, like a smooth transition, the speed brakes, you can also, I think you can do the flaps with a potentiometer, you can do the throttle, the mixture, and the prop, maybe the carburetor heat, you know. So those are some of the things that I can think of. So if you wanted to use a potentiometer, you can use on A0 through A15 only. And one more thing that is kind of cool, let's say just for example that you were going to run out of these, or simply you just wanted to take a input multiplexer, an analog one, you can select any pin and you can select it as an analog multiplexer. So those you could only do from A0 through A15, but only one of them, as I mentioned before in my previous video, you can only have one analog multiplexer, and then you would be able to connect all your analog devices into that one, and then just run one wire to the Arduino here to whatever one you put the input analog multiplexer on. So that's kind of convenient right there. Alright, so just remember, analog inputs and analog multiplexers only on A0 through A15, but you can only have one analog multiplexer, whichever one you select. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about LEDs. So LEDs you can connect on every single pin that is available. So in this case, of course, they would be outputs because they would be outputting to an LED. So this is for direct connection. So if you wanted to connect an LED directly onto the Arduino, you can select any single pin that is available, even number 13. And obviously for LEDs, you are not going to be able to, you know, you don't select it like this. You would actually go to, for example, Let me go to the radios. Yeah, let me go to the audio radios. So if you wanted to, you know, have an LED for the audio marker here, you would just put it wherever you want it. And like I said, you can even assign one on number pin 13. So every single pin that you see here, even on the analog ones, you can put an LED output, direct connection to the Arduino. So that's for LEDs. For 7-segment displays, the only pins you can use for a direct connection of a 7-segment display, whether it's a MAX 7219 or a TM1637 or a custom made one that you made with a DM13A LED driver, or a, I believe they're called 74HC595 shift register. You can connect those only to pins number 30 to 37. So if you try to select any other pin, you see that that is not available. Connect 7-segment display is not an available option. So you can try all of them and you won't be able to. The only ones you can connect it is between 30 and 37. You can see that you can connect one there, and then you would have to select, of course, which type. The ones that, unless you make your own and you're able to use one of these bottom ones down here, the only ones you're really gonna have to worry about is the MAX 7219 or the TM1637, which is the ones that I've used only. So just remember that. Only pins 30 to 37 for 7-segment displays. Okay, now we're gonna go to LCD displays. LCD displays are a little bit more forgiving, I guess you can say, because you can connect those to pins number 20, 21, and 30 through 49. So you can select if, oops, I chose the wrong one. So if you look on 20, you can see that you have the option to connect an LCD display. If you connect any of the ones in 30 to 37, you also have it right there. And if you go, even if you go all the way down to 49, you still have that option right there. But if you go past 49, you no longer have that option. So it's pins 20, 21, and 30 through 49 for LCD displays direct connection. The next one is LED drivers, which I've only played around with the DM13A, and that's the one that I concentrate on most because I have already connected one of those to my test panel, and I like it. I like the way it works. It seems a little bit complicated to connect them, but it's not really that bad. And eventually I'll get to the part where I do a video just on those. So LED drivers are exactly like, pretty much like LEDs. You can connect it on any pin that you see here, including the analog ones. So you can see that it's a serial LED driver, so you can put those anywhere you want. They're all available, even where you can connect the 7-segment displays, even on the specialty ones that we're going to talk about right here. So any pin is available, including number 13 as well. That's for LED drivers like the DM13A. Okay, for the LED matrix, which is basically it, I believe it runs off of the MAX 7219. You can only connect them the same as the 7-segment displays. I guess to the plug-in it looks just like a 7-segment display. So you can only select also 30 to 37 for the LED matrix based on the MAX 7219. Alright, so that's pins number 30 through 37. Alright, the next one we're going to talk about is the pulse width modulated device, which is basically like a coil, and that one uses a TLC 5947 chip. So that's this one right here that you can see, the purple one. Obviously I haven't used it. I have no headers on it or anything connected to it, but eventually I hope to someday play around with it. Okay, so if we go back to the configurator, the only place you can connect those is also 30 to 37. So as you can see, 30 to 37 are very special because there's only certain things you can connect on them, and that's why they're highlighted yellow. So if you click on one of them, you can see that it gives you the option to add a PWM driver based on the TLC 5947, which is the one I just showed you right now. So you can connect those on 30 to 37, just like just like 7-segment displays. If you try to click on any other one, you see that option is grayed out, so it's not available. So it's a good idea, and I wanted to mention this at the beginning and I forgot, that if you, depending on what you are planning to do in the future with your home setup, your cockpit, it's a good idea to try to stay away from the pins that are specifically for certain type of devices. So if you know that you're going to want to connect more than, let's say, 7 or 8 7-segment displays, then don't connect any inputs on these, because you're not going to have enough later, and you're going to have to move them, and then you're going to be in trouble. So stay away from all these right here that are pink, green, blue, and also the yellow ones, just for future expandability. The next thing we're going to talk about is direct pulse width modulated devices. So if you want to build let's say a gauge with a coil, which is a pulse width modulated device, that one right there you can connect on pins number 2 through 13, and then also 44, 45, and 46. So in order to demonstrate that, let's go to the flight instruments, and that gives you the option to use a stepper motor, a pulse width modulated control device, which is a coil, and also a servo. So if you wanted to use a pulse width modulated control device, then you would basically have to select something between 2 and 13, or 44, 45, or 46. The good thing about that is if you try to select one that's not one of those, it'll tell you which ones you can put it on. So that's kind of helpful right there. So then if you just select number 5, then you see that the airspeed indicator is there, and you would have to wire it up according to how the pages instruct you to in order for it to work. But that's if you don't want to use a driver, like the little board that I showed you earlier. You can just do direct, and I guess you can have a total of 15 if you count 2 through 13, and also 44, 45, and 46. Okay, so let's go back out here for a little while to my mess here on the table. And I'm sorry, I just noticed the refrigerator was running. Hopefully it didn't pick it up that loud. So another thing you can also do, which is part of the beauty of the expandability of HIXY, I almost said SimVim Cockpit again. It's going to be a while before I get used to not saying that. Is that you can also use an Uno or a Nano board, which is this white one that I have right here, to use it as a LCD controller, a stepper motor controller, or a servo controller, and also for the key matrix. So in case you wanted to build like the FMC or something, or you wanted to have 176 more inputs, just in case all the hundreds and hundreds that you can get with multiplexer boards were not enough for you, well, you can add one of these to add 176 more inputs. Okay, so if we go back to the configurator here, once again, I mentioned before that these colorful ones right here, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, were special. So these colors right here correspond to these colors up here. As you can see, 14 and 15 are for an LCD controller, and that would be on the Arduino, that is called RX and TX3. So if you click on this right here and you have one of those boards set up, this is where you would assign whatever functions you wanted to display on your LCDs. You would need to click on that right there, and then it'll give you the pinout for that Arduino Nano controller and all the LCDs that you have connected to that. So, and then you go back to the board, you would click on that right there again. And once again, for 16 and 17, that is RX and TX2, and that is for a servo controller because it's green, as you can see up here too. So when you click on that, the same thing, it will show you all the different pins that you can connect servos to. Alright, so that's what that's all about. I believe you can connect up to 18 servos to this controller board here. And then we go back to the master again. And finally, on number 18 and 19, which is RX and TX1, you can connect either the key matrix or the stepper motor controller. So you would need to, if you wanted to use both of them, they do have on the pages a way to daisy chain them, so you can have two of them. You don't have to just have one or the other. You'll be able to still have a stepper motor controller board and a key matrix as well. So obviously you would need to have two Arduino Unos or Nanos in order to do that. But once again, if you click on those, it gives you the pinouts for all the stepper motors or for the key matrix, the way you're going to line it up. And we're not going to get into the wiring of that right now, because that's probably even way above my head as well. Alright, so that's pretty much it. That's I hope that, you know, by basically going over all these things, you can plan ahead a little bit. That so if you know that you want to use certain things in your setup eventually, you just basically stay clear of those pins that are specialty. And I'm gonna have a list. I'll put it up on my Google Drive, and I'll put the link in the description with a document that I wrote for all these things. But you really don't need to memorize it, because as you go through your configuration here, you'll be able to tell, you know, what you can connect where just by clicking on it. You know, it'll give you the options that are available. But if you want it, it'll be available there. So I guess that's gonna be it for this video. Hopefully it didn't turn out too long. I guess I'll find out after I'm done editing it. But I just thought that it was good information that might help you in your planning, you know, for your home cockpit setup for the future. Alright, so thank you guys very much for watching, like always, and we'll see you on the next one. Alright, so I think that's gonna be it for this video. Hopefully it didn't turn out too long. I guess I'll find out once I'm finishing with the editing process. But yeah, I think this information was very important. Like I said in the beginning, you know, it's something that I think you should know right off the bat, so that you can kind of plan ahead for whatever you might be adding into your home cockpit in the future. At least you don't have to go back and undo some of the things that you already did because you didn't know that on certain pins you can only connect certain type of devices or components. So that's going to be it for this one. Hopefully it helps out, that which is always my goal. And thank you very much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.